G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks Stuff Ukraine War update for the 1st of May 2025. As the war continues, I'll continue to bring you my unique perspective on the war. Now the war continues, of course, and the Russians have advanced, as you can tell by the title of the video. Whoops. Right, so I'll try again. There we go. Alright. And as you can see, there is a lot of activity on the border. This is the expansion of the buffer zone. This is what Putin is probably insinuating is the end game. To put a border, a harder border with a no-go zone, right, that they will clear between Russia and Ukraine. A clear border fence, border patrolled area, electronic monitored area with, heavy security, which means this town here is most likely going to be obliterated, as with many border towns. The Russians said they can no longer trust Ukraine on their border. That's not just now, it's into the future. So we have a lot of activity on the buffer zone, which includes Kupiansk. Kupiansk is again under attack. The Russians have made small progress in Kupiansk. Now as we go down here, there's still not much movement. Now on the Lyman front, again, not much movement. But south of Lyman, in the Seversk front, there's a lot of movement. Russia has taken this position, like I said they would, to control the Donetsk River. Why? Because it's going to carry them to Ragnarok, to controlling the banks of the Donetsk here enables them to shell the northern end of Seversk, Salavansk. Right, so again, by coming up through this road, that are taking these towns, take Morovia, that puts them able to then have two firing positions, and then the third, this is the hardest, is to come down through here, take the northern road, and start to begin laying siege to the north, cutting off Seversk, leaving their only supply line through here and through here, but we're cutting them off from all this distribution. That's a long way to go, but they have, as you see, they've taken a huge chunk out of Ukraine and the north. Now, Chavashia area and Kromovskia, no progress. There's a lot of fighting. They've made a little bit of progress past Ronetsk on their way to Benishki. And here, again, as I said, they'll probably go up, take this out and go up here. Take this out, go up here. Take this out. And this will be taken out soon. Once they start sieging here, all this they'll have to crumble. The supply lines are getting cut. They can't, but they are, and again, the Russians are, like I said, coming up here. Cut this off. It's not working as fast or as hard as they wanted, but they are still at it, and they are grinding away. And as I said, they're grinding away here. They've taken half of Zhelizhsky. They're in this and other towns. They are pushing, and they are hitting and bombing the Ukrainian positions, cutting them off. Trying to control this, because if they cut this off here, that falls easily. It's got nowhere to fall back on. they'd have to cross. That is probably, should be a river crossing here. It's probably not marked. A lot of them are not marked. But I think there's a river crossing. Is it there? I know there's one here. But again, it's not marked. A lot of the bridges too were taken off the maps initially, and a lot of the bridges have actually been taken out by Ukraine to stop the Russian advance. But the Russians have built over a dozen bridging equipment and moving it up to the front lines out of Rostov. So, but I think that's for the Donetsk, right? That was for this campaign, because sieging this fortress is again, it would be easier if they could. If they did sweep up through here, this would fall and save 100,000 lives, save 100,000 Ukrainians. But as you can see, the usual Kharkiv, Dnipro City, Mykolaiv and Odessa were hit. The drone strike on Kyiv. Again, Russia says they carried out precision strikes on Ukrainian drone and other military infrastructures. My merch store, Empire of Elves. Please support the channel today. Thank you. Now, a couple of months ago, Russia carried out a strike near Kiev that caused a massive blackout. That was carried out by one KH-22 missile. It hit the substation near Kiev in a night strike, although as you see it's taking off. That is the that's the White Swan. Is the Tupolev 160M, as you can see. Right. That's file photo. It's not armed. There it is, armed. It flew from its base to another air base where it was armed, and then it flew up to its launching point. Now, yeah, it can actually be a nuclear weapon. The KH-22 can be a nuclear weapon, but it's not. But there's the strike by a hypersonic missile within an hour of launch. A flight that would take it is an extremely fast missile. Now that's how quick a missile strike can be. Although it does cut out the hour of flight time, but that's how quick it can be. Just take off, no threat to the bomber whatsoever, launch from a very high altitude, and let half the flight be the curvature of the Earth. Right? Instead of flying like this, it's flying like that. So it's not going as far. Alright, so Trump is blaming Biden for prolonging the Ukraine war by giving them $350 billion instead of resolving the war. And it's made a mess out of Ukraine. They've tried to help Ukraine, and no. We're oceans apart. It's like, for them, their front door. We can help them. Biden gave them money, which was insane. And that's one of the reasons why the war goes on. Asked whether or not he's considering reducing the number of troops, not only in Germany, but Italy and Spain. Yeah. Why shouldn't I? They don't want to help us. Exactly. They do. This is all deliberate, right? This is deliberate isolation, right? But what's America to do, right? They can't. If you can't use your military bases, why keep them, right? This is what the socialists do. Then they say, you're abandoning us to the Russians. But you're the one who won't fight them. Right? You keep saying how you want to save Ukraine. Well, save Ukraine. Start World War III. Destroy yourselves. Stop asking others to do it for you. Yeah, but America's responding to Madrid wanting to cut off trade relations with America over Iran. Why? Because again, as I explained, the nuclear blackmail, the Europeans benefit, right? Every time America pays this big sum of money, like $350 billion, a lot of that is borrowed from European banks. And a lot of help for Ukraine goes through Europe and is again, Europe wants to profit off war and have US fight their wars, and then they turn around, no, NATO's for you to protect us. And they say, well, when we're engaged in our activities, you won't let us use our bases because you say, no, we need those bases for us. It's a one-way relationship. It's a complete narcissistic, toxic relationship where Europe wants all the benefit and none of the hard work. I hear you. It is like marriage. So, Zelensky has asked, but has not been given a response, when the meeting will be. And Trump's response was when the Middle East situation is resolved there. Russia and the US are talking about Ukraine and Iran. They have held talks. The ball's now in Iran's court. Now, take this with a grain of salt. There are many articles glazing Ukraine and their drones and their unprecedented success. Did the Ukrainian contingent do anything? Did the Ukrainian contingent help the UAE or any other country? No. What have they done? Have they ordered more Ukrainian drones? No. They ordered more US interceptors. They found these drones to be a novelty. They're great against low and slow surveillance drones, but not against fast-moving combat drones. And some of them, 300 anti-drone units, have not registered a kill, according to a defector to Russia. Well, if he isn't, he's the dead man, because giving an interview like this, revealing national security secrets, even if it isn't true, Ukraine has to respond. Deputy Amanda, and this is why I question, right? As I said, where are the hits? Most of the drones knocked out of the sky, they're in swarms, shot down by guns. This was recently revealed as well in the Middle East. Most of the drones were shot down by guns as they crossed the Gulf. US warships and US warplanes shut them down. A lot of them were shot. The rest, it's not 100%. Everybody knows that. Unfortunately, the left always acts as if these systems are going to be 100%. But the Russians did do a big thing about corruption and Zelensky and billions in graft. It's a pointless exercise. It is not going to get Zelensky arrested, unseated. The Ukrainians have resigned themselves to the corruption. They have accepted it. And they're letting him do it. They're not going to stop him. It's a done deal. Just too many people in Ukraine have too many hands in too many pockets, and the general population of Ukraine has no power. The army, the police, they're all in on it, right? They don't want to give up their... So Ukraine has decided to suicide itself. But this is an interesting article. For Russia to point out that a ceasefire would be bad for Europe, well, let's see. If Ukraine agrees to a ceasefire without security guarantees, it does risk the Russian military regrouping, which they don't need. They have momentum, and they have taken a lot of territory. So if Ukraine rejects the offer, which they did, they're now seen as the warmonger and has sabotaged peace initiatives. And many countries are trying to take out Spain, are trying to take out their anger and frustrations on the United States. But here's the very fact, I've called this out before, that Putin should call for a ceasefire to show that Ukraine will not accept one. And that's exactly what happened. Now, it's the other way around. When Zelensky calls for a ceasefire, Russia says, you just want to regroup, and have done 3 times in the past, particularly the most notably in 2022. So if Russia accepts the offer, they allow Ukraine to regroup, rearm, and resupply. And if Russia rejects the offer, Ukraine just calls them out as warmongers. Now, Zelensky's fallen for his own politics. And it's worse for Europe because now the rest of the world is looking at Europe and saying, why are you prolonging this war? You have a ceasefire. You could potentially save losing a third of Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and Kherson. And if you did a peace deal, say they did a ceasefire and says, right, security guarantees, right, we draw up a boundary along natural boundaries, leaving a big, wide open area right in front of Russia so that there can be nothing, right? Nothing seen, nothing hidden, right? A big, and it would be over. All right, security guarantees would have to come, but China won't. So it's not just Zelensky dragging his heels. It's China, it's Europe, it is, to some extent, Russia. There is no peace deal that can be put on the table that will satisfy anyone anymore, leaving Russia with its only option of military grinding away until 2030, hoping that Europeans will get rid of their corrupt governments and Zelensky will be taken out, or the Ukrainians just get sick of yet another 90 days. They've got 90 days. Today starts another 90-day period of martial law. So for 90 days, Zelensky is the dictator of Ukraine yet again. So 90 days, you know. So people are going to get sick of it. Europeans are going to get sick of it. Look, it took them a long time to get sick of the Vietnam War. It took them longer, actually, to get sick of the Afghan War. But the problem is, as America pointed out, it was all useless. It was all... There was no concerted effort to defeat the Taliban. Or a general Milley saying, that's not how things are done, sir. And it's like, oh, yeah. This new post-war pathetic era is why Russia is able to do this, by the way. Because Europe has done it. If Europe didn't do it to Kosovo, right? If Europe didn't break up Syria, if Europe didn't abandon Lebanon, I think we wouldn't be in this situation. There are, or flooding up, and again, on the Russian side, flooding arms to Africa, your so-called wars of liberation, which is nothing more than we want to get your resources, so because ours are, and whether you want to believe that or not, both sides, everyone is playing everyone else for fools. And the only ones that seem to be believing it is the gullible, and unfortunately the gullible seems to be in vast numbers supporting these wars rather than realising what these wars are. Silly games by violent people who instigate trouble in the first place. Men are victims in this war. They just don't want to admit it. Ukraine is a victim of Ukraine. If Ukraine had not engaged in a coup, had not engaged in ethnic cleansing, if Europe had stood up to Ukraine in the first place and drew, and if the European Commission, which at the time I think was chaired by France, had actually not turned away the people of Donetsk who were begging for help, there wouldn't be a Russian intervention. It would have been a European intervention. The Russians would have been pissed, but it would have been, yeah. And ironically, Britain would have got what it wanted, a NATO base in Crimea. So you got played. You're diddling, you're meddling, you're delaying, allowed Russia to move in and take those territories. Those territories wanted, including Crimea, wanted independence because they couldn't trust the Ukrainians anymore, because the Ukrainians were taking everything for themselves, including the grain that Zelensky says the Russians have stolen from us. It's the grain of Donetsk, not the grain of Kiev. That's all they care about, is what they can. Ew, you're taking away our resources, our oil, it's ours. That's what these governments do. They think everything belongs to them, that the people are just minions to be exploited. Why you should have zero fucking care or sympathy for Zelensky or any of his government. This Ukraine has no regard for its people. And if it did, there wouldn't be a Ukraine war. Many generals have come out and said a neutral Ukraine, because it's just would be the optimal outcome. An immediate ceasefire was the optimal outcome. Now Ukraine's lost more land because it wouldn't think straight, wouldn't think beyond what it can grab for itself. And Europe won't stand up to Zelensky, who's just as bad as Saddam Hussein, I reckon. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel and support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. Putin is not our problem. Russia's not our country. We have no right to choose the leaders of Russia. But if you install leaders like Zelensky, you got to take responsibility for it. But the Britain won't. They wash their hands of it. And that is disgusting. Always wanting other people to carry their load. Well, yeah. Why? Because it makes the minnow look like a shark, when the real shark is the United States, and Britain's the minnow. And they just can't accept it. So they're going to play these horrible games of proxy wars.